Thanks for logging on to Wayne.com for another edition of Inside the Zone. Blake Sebring, all smiles this week. Had to be a great weekend in the Sebring household with the Bears winning, a step away from the Super Bowl, and the way the Komets played, especially on Saturday and Sunday nights. Since December 22nd, 7-1-4, they've really picked it up.
Well, what happened was they had a team meeting December 18th, and they figured out 8 goals that they wanted to try to achieve, figuring if they got to 6 of them every night, they'd win. And so far, that's been really solid.
And I guess one of the big things that you could notice over the weekend was power play effectiveness. I mean, they were much better on the power play. They have been recently. Obviously, calling chalk, that doesn't hurt. But what's really been the key for power play goals for this team?
It's been the key for the whole game. They've been going to the net. I mean, they've been taking the lumps in front. They've been getting to rebounds. They changed their shot pattern. Instead of shooting waist high, they've been trying to shoot 6 inches off the ice or up under the bar. So that way you get rebounds. And if you go stick side, you get a lot more rebounds. And that's what happened Sunday. They got to 4 rebounds on power plays, and it was right there. Frankie shot the first goal was from out front, but the goaltender was screened and never saw it. There was somebody in front. It's really that simple.
And one of those guys that can do some things in front, Tab Lardner, he had himself a pretty nice weekend. 3 goals for Tab. Of course, he was only added a couple of months ago. What does he bring to the game, and how can he be one of those guys that keeps things going for the Komets, especially in terms of goal scoring?
Actually, I've been more impressed with Tab defensively.
Really?
I mean, he is an amazing penalty killer. You add him and Colin, and you might have 2 of the top 5 penalty killers in the league that you just added. I mean, and that's one reason why the penalty kill has been exceptional the last 12 games. It's 86%. You add those guys, and then you add Danny Lapointe, who's really good on face-offs, and he's long, and he's hard to get around, and he's got some quick feet, and he wins face-offs. That's 3 guys that are exceptional forward penalty killers that they've added. The other thing about Tab is he doesn't have any fear out there. He just seems to stick his nose in and agitate, and he's just such a pain in the butt to play against. I can't wait to see him and Leo, if they could ever get on the same line or play consistently together, because they're both kind of the same guy. You just want to knock their block off, and you forget about what you're supposed to be doing, and you just get sick of them. Kaylee did some of that this weekend too.
That's the next guy I was going to talk about. When you said a pain in the butt guy, I would not want to play against Kaylee Schrock. He comes back from a little bit of a dinged-up injury. He gets 2 goals this weekend. What does it mean now that the lines are starting to sort themselves out, and you've got guys? Musselwhite played well as well. You've got these guys kind of finding their rhythm and finding what they're supposed to be doing on the ice.
Well, you finally got some consistent competition for ice time. I mean, you've got guys competing for playoff time, for penalty kill time. You've got to get Leo Thomas and Matthew Curto and Brandon Warner and Keith Roger and Sean O'Connor was out this week because of the flu. You've got to get those 5 guys back into the lineup somehow. And while they were out, the other guys played really well. So then you got some decisions to make. And unless you just leave them on IR, Leo's going to be on for a while too, as is Brandon. But Kurds could come back, and OC wasn't on IR. He was just sick with the flu. So you've got some really good competition going finally to see who plays. And that's something that they've been trying to get to, but they've finally gotten to it.
Yeah, and Keith was on bereavement leave this weekend as well. When you take a look at Guy Dupuis, because that's one of the things people are going to remember this weekend. Over 1,000 games Saturday night at Bloomington. He breaks that barrier, gets an assist on Sunday. So he owns essentially every record for a defenseman.
The only one he's missing is, and he'll probably get it, is, and this is not a slam, Guy, is penalty minutes, career penalty minutes. Cal Puritan's got him by about 50. So I would imagine Guy will be pretty close to that by the end of the year.
Well, last week we talked about what does it mean? What do you think about 1,000 games for Guy Dupuis in a Komets uniform? I know you did a nice piece on him leading up to it. What does Guy think about it? What does he look back? How does he look on his tenure here with the Komets? What does it say about him in his eyes?
I think the most important thing is, just like I said in that story, the consistency. And I did some more research, and there's like 94 guys who've played 1,000 games in the minors. There's only 2 or 3 that have played as many as 1,000 games with one team. I mean, it's just incredible when you look at it that way. Or, you look at it that for anybody to break his record, say Brandon Warner, Kaylee Schrock, or Bobby Phillips, they'd have to be healthy for every game for the next 12 years to have a chance. Well, that's not going to happen. I mean, the fact that Guy has been healthy for this long is just incredible. And I think he's really picked up his game the last month as well. He's the 4th leading scorer on the team over the last month, which is something that he was really struggling with earlier this year. He's really picked up his game. You
mentioned guys picking up their game. One guy that played a great game on Sunday, Kevin Ryder, his numbers have actually been pretty solid throughout the season, but he took, I think, another step on Sunday and showed what he can really bring to this team.
I think he finally got a lead to work with for once. I mean, Kevin is 3-7-1, and his goals against average is only 2.88. I mean, that's spectacular. How can his record be that poor? Well, he wasn't getting any support offensively from his teammates. They got 2 goals right off the bat Sunday, and he could relax and come out and challenge guys, and he did a great job at that, and he made some really amazing saves when he had to. But he finally could relax and just play and didn't have to worry about, oh crap, if I give up 1 goal, we're going to lose. I think that was the biggest difference. I think Kevin's been this good all along. And I think Nick's been this good all along. I think everybody else is catching up to them.
And one of the other big positives throughout this weekend, you take a look at the movement in the standings. The Komets, we can finally say, are no longer technically in last place. They're tied with the Icemen. But they played 4 less games than the Icemen, so you figure by the time things even out, it's not going to be a question.
Well, this is even stranger, Glenn. I mean, you look at, they're, I think, 12 points behind Quad City for first. If they win the 3 games in hand they have on Quad City, they're 6 points down. That's easily workable. I mean, you can manage that the rest of the way. They don't think they're out of the race for first yet.
Yeah, that leads into my next question, because you take a look at, they're playing hot. This weekend's a pretty decent weekend for them in terms of their competition. Wednesday, they're going to be playing Missouri. That's the team that's 3rd. And then you've got 2 games against Bloomington, 1 here, 1 there over the weekend. That's the team that's in 2nd. So you could really gain some ground on the teams that are playing well and are ahead of you in the standings this weekend. This could be a show you weekend.
Well, like Al Sims pointed out Sunday, all 3 teams they played last weekend were ahead of them in the standings. And it's crazy is that the one that they've struggled the most with is Evansville, which is right there with them. I mean, that's what's so frustrating about this team is it's like you think the games that they should win, they play so poorly. I mean, they have to be careful that they don't play down to the level of their opponent, and they've got to maintain their level where they're at right now.
Kind of wrapping this up, last Wednesday was the All-Star game, the midpoint of the season. Congratulations to Frankie DeAngelis for being selected and playing in that game. Do you feel like since that All-Star break, sometimes teams get re-energized? People talk about the first half, the second half. Is this a Komets team that made a concerted effort over the time off to get themselves making a playoff push and really kind of thought and dug deep and figured things out? Because the way they played this past weekend was spectacular. That's a playoff team.
I think they started before that. I mean, they are 7-1-4 in the last 12. But I think it's also Colin's influence as well. The first couple weeks, I don't think he said a whole lot. I think he's starting to say more. He was the guy one of the guys that came up with, we got to go to the net more, guys, and we got to really clean out the front of the other net, and we got to shoot low or high and not in the middle. I mean, I think you're starting to see some of that influence, too. I think Tab Lardner's feeling more comfortable that way as well. Kaylee came back. That was big to provide some energy. Things should keep getting better from here as they get healthier.
You know how nice it was to do an entire show about positives?
I know. I'm feeling itchy.
Like
I've got hives or something. It's just so rare,
Ah, it feels so good.
Of course, we didn't, if they'd ended on Sunday with the Evansville game like they started on Friday, then we would have been a whole different show. I mean, that was just awful.
But they didn't.
No, they didn't.
But they didn't. We're all happy in Komets land, at least until Wednesday night when they play that home game.
And they really got to pick it up on the first game of the week. They're just awful in the first game of the week, even at home. I mean, I think they're like 2-8-1 or something like that, the first game of the week. If they got off the first game of the week, somehow, right now they'd be in like 3rd place.
Yeah, those Fridays when there's the first game, they've been killing them. But hopefully they'll get that rectified Wednesday night at the Coliseum. But for Blake, I'm Glenn. He's going to say go Bears. I'm going to say go Packers. We'll see what happens next week. Thanks for logging on for Inside the Zone.